a memo to the newsrooms, you'd have expected that instead of sending a memo to the newsrooms, just by the time you are finishing to read news, this is the matter that needed more explanation from senior government officials, because it's very far-reaching. I mean, increasing fuel with the margins Kenya increased. I am seeing, if you don't mind, maybe the ones who are here, naona kama you can try not to obstruct the others, or maybe hapo kando kidogo, tafadhali. So the issue is that the margin at which fuel was increased is not just about pump, it is about the spiraling within the economy. And let me start here by saying that the hiking of fuel prices that happened yesterday, of course, is unprecedented in terms of quantum. We have never seen that kind of margin increase in fuel prices ever since April started releasing the guidance of prices. And therefore, this is a very important matter to our economy and the running of our economy in all sectors. Just today, we have seen that the transport industry have also reacted to the hike in fuel prices by also passing over that burden to the consumers of the services within the transport industry. That is also likely to also happen in manufacturing. It is likely to happen in every other sector within our economy. And therefore, the bigger question that we need to ask ourselves as Kenyans, between the ripple effect of increasing fuel with the kind of margin that we did yesterday as Kenya, between that effect, that direct effect, and the ripple effect that is there, and on the other side, the amount of money that we could spend in making sure that fuel is affordable, what is a bigger cost to the economy, and which is a more prudent thing to do? Is it to let the economy spiral in its negative effects from transport to manufacturing to the forex in terms of dollar demand and to all the other sectors? Is it better to stop that spiraling by spending some little more money on bringing down the prices, or is it unleashing the entire price increment to the consumers? That is what we need to interrogate. And as I said before, it is upon us as leaders to also offer practical, reasonable proposals that Kenya can work on. And just to go direct to the point, number one is joke taken too far by the government. 3% is inadequate. It is not addressing the issue on the table. Secondly, is that the people of Kenya expected the government to also talk about lowering fuel levy. And number three, the subsidy that was provided yesterday through the Fuel Stabilization Fund is overwhelmingly inadequate, and we need to do something about it. So I have 3 proposals based on what we need to do as Kenyans now, without necessarily waiting. I have kept talking about this issue for the last 1 month because this was not an emergency that happened to Kenya. We have always known from the 28th of February that we'll need to think and do something about the fuel crisis. The fact that we had to postpone offering solutions up to yesterday evening, almost at midnight, just shows how casually the government has been taking this matter. So, as I talk about these 3 proposals, I request those who are concerned, this is not the time to chest dump and show Kenyans who knows what more than who. It is the time to present credible solutions to the issue that is the Kenyans are grappling with today. The number 1 proposal that I have, and wholesomely, the practical proposal we have can reduce fuel prices by 27 shillings today without hurting anyone. One is that we need to reduce our VAT by an extra 5% now And that extra VAT of 5% will mean that our fuel prices will go down by, on that segment alone, by around 8 shillings. The second proposal is that we need to de-gazette the 7 shillings that was added on fuel levy in the year 2024. It was done through a gazette notice by the Minister for Transport. The same way, he needs to give a gazette notice today, before the close of today. That will also bring down the fuel prices by an extra 7 shillings. The other thing that we must do is that the fuel stabilization fund has close to 20 billion Kenya shillings as we talk. And this is not money that has been budgeted for. This is money that Kenyans pay in the pump. As you go to fuel your car, it is the Kenyans who have been funding the fuel stabilization fund. And my proposal is that we need to provide an extra 5 billion shillings from the fuel stabilization fund. And with a consumption of around 400 million liters of diesel and petrol per month, it means that will amount to around 12 shillings per liter. Adding those 3 elements, specifically reducing VAT by an extra 5%, that gives an extra reprieve of around 8 shillings, reducing fuel levy by around 7 shillings, and also offering an additional subsidy of 5 billion shillings from fuel stabilization fund. That also means around 12 shillings per liter. Wholesomely, we can be able to reduce the prices of fuel today by 27 shillings. And what that is likely to do is that we are going to arrest the very many spiraling effects that will happen starting today out of the reckless decision that was made by government yesterday. And Kenyans need to realize this. The proposals I have given, I'm not even requesting the government to do anything. Kenyans are just saying, take back the levies and taxes where you got them. That's what the people of Kenya are saying. The additional 8% VAT was added by this regime in 2023. The additional 7 shillings in fuel levy was added by this regime in the year 2024. The money that is coming from fuel stabilization fund. It is not money that they have generated. It is money that has been contributed by the Kenyan people in the last several months. So what you are asking is simple. Just take the levies and taxes where you got them. And if that happens, Kenyans are not going to pay more in the pump as it happened yesterday. So Kenyans are not requesting the government to do anything. They are just demanding that the government takes the taxation and levies to the level they got them. If they only do that, there is reprieve in the pump as the starting point. Then after doing that, in the medium term, we should now be looking at how to tax exempt the fuel products. We at least take our VAT to 0 in the intermediate period, because the issue we are dealing with is not long term. How we saw even during the Russia and Ukraine issue is that this issue doesn't take too long. There is already solutions being floated globally, and therefore we may push this cost to the Kenyan people, then we end up hurting our economy for the rest of the year. I don't think we need to do that. Kenya has resources to be able to arrest this matter when we can arrest it. The other issue that Kenyans must be aware of, just look at your data and you'll see that global oil prices were at a higher price in the year 2022 than they are now. Actually, in May of 2022, a barrel of oil topped around $115 per barrel. It is definitely higher than the $98 per barrel it is trading today. But fuel prices never exceeded 160 shillings for petrol and around 140 shillings for diesel. So this is simple arithmetic. The global oil prices were higher in 2022 at around $115 per barrel. But the highest Kenyans were paying was around 160 shillings for petrol and 140 shillings for diesel. What an oxymoron then there is, that the global oil prices are now around $98 per barrel, but Kenyans are paying upwards of 200 shillings. That is a paradox by itself. And even when we compare the regional prices, and especially Kenya being a home of a port, and Kenya having mechanisms like fuel stabilization fund, which is funded by Kenyans, it is not explainable logically how any of our neighbors should be selling fuel cheaper than Kenya. That is a paradox by itself. The last thing I want to address, and I want to bring it to the attention of Kenyans, and I've been doing it, but unfortunately, maybe many people block Kenyans from getting this real information. This scam called G2G. G2G is a scandal, it is a scam, and it is a business for senior government officials in Kenya. G2G, there is nothing government to government. Saudi Aramco is government in their area. And also the companies in the UAE are owned by government in those countries. But the other G that should represent the government of Kenya, Kenyans should know that there is no government there. These are self-interested, greedy leaders who are profiteering from G2G as Kenyans brace themselves with the pain at the pump. G2G, I want to repeat, is a kiosk. It is a business enterprise. It is a profit machine for senior government leaders in Kenya. And the companies that handle 75% of G2G volumes, the ultimate beneficial owners of these companies are the same people who added fuel prices yesterday. That for them, they would rather make profits from their G2G arrangements and illegal businesses, but Kenyans to shoulder the burden and the cry. The most unfortunate bit is that they have now extended that grid from now downstream to midstream to all the levels of fuel production in Kenya. That the same cabal in government who are profiteering from G2G, they have now taken Kenyans' resources in Turkana. That the oil in Turkana does no longer belong to Kenyans. It now belongs to greedy leaders. The same people profiteering from G2G, they have now stolen the Kenyan fuel and oil in Turkana. They are now exploring it and exploiting it for their own personal benefit. It is a big shame. And Kenyans cannot continue to be led in this kind of profligate and unabashed and uncontrolled greed. G2G, for avoidance of doubt, is a scandal. And the people who you see there purporting they are the owners of those companies are not. The second thing is that we have now also negotiated through the pain of Kenyans our political dealings. The G2G companies that were there previously belong to the original owners of government, the original one. Now, even those who joined, part of the negotiation that was there after the protest of 2024, that instead of addressing the issues Kenyans raised, leaders sat down to cut deals, and a few companies were introduced into G2G. One of them, you have seen it in today's newspapers on front page. That as Kenyans, we are talking about lowering taxes and lowering the cost of living. Leaders sat down in dark rooms and instead cut deals on introducing companies belonging to the then opposition. For them to be silenced, Kenyans had to pay the price. So, my friends in government, Kenyans will not continue to shoulder the burden of your greed through the dealings of G2G. That as they bear the pain in the pump, you are celebrating the profits. That will not continue to happen in Kenya anymore. Very lastly, the proposals you are giving are practical as well-meaning leaders. The leaders in government should not try Kenyans. Do not try Kenyans. You may be swimming in money out of the profits you are making from G to G, but Kenyans are wallowing in poverty created by the same policies. Do not try, Kenyans. It is to your benefit that soonest the government must call a consultative meetings of all the. We must reduce VAT further. We must reduce fuel levy. And we must provide extra not less than 5 billion shillings for an additional subsidy. And those practical solutions will bring down the fuel prices by at least 27 shillings. Let us not try the patience of Kenyans. It is to your benefit now, by following what Kenyans are proposing. Don't argue with Kenyans, because soon you'll be arguing with yourself. Thank you very much.
Question,
Yes.
Is it possible a real impact on going forward?
Yes, yes.
If this fuel, the price of fuel remains the same at the pump, what is the likely effect from jobs to factories and all that? What is the likely effect for the farmers? The farmers and all that?
Yes.
Secondly, the argument is that the amount they are using, the 7 shillings, the tax and all that, is the one which is being used for road construction.